Loshak. This is our NFL opening line show that we do every Monday afternoon with Joe Duffy from Offshore Insiders, where we take a look at the recent opening lines for the NFL and think about which ones might move, which ones might take sharp action, which ones might take public action. We're looking ahead right now to NFL Week 6. Joe, thanks for being with us this week.
Thank you, Peter. Let's continue to build on a winning NFL season.
All right, before we get into these opening lines, tell us about your winning NFL season at offshoreinsiders.com.
Well, it's been a sensational season. We're coming off a 7-1 weekend. We still have the Monday night game pending as we do record this, but 31-16 going back to week 3 of the preseason. That's why they call me the NFL specialist. Been winning for 26 years. This is among our better, not necessarily our best, but the best is yet to come. So join me, Joe Duffy's picks at offshoreinsiders.com. Year number 26 of public plays winning.
Good God, Joe Duffy, 7-1 against the spread last week. Is that a real stat? Is that a real number?
No, it is. In fact, I do know for a fact by getting some of emails that we've picked up some new clients. I appreciate it off of SBR Forum. So I know there's some regular viewers here who can more than verify 7-1 in the NFL.
Joe Duffy, that is an impressive record. All right, and an impressive record overall. All right, let's see what you can tell us about your opinions on the opening lines. All right, let's start with the obvious, right? The Denver line. Right now, it's actually 26.5. It opened at 27.5, so it came down a little bit. But this is the biggest NFL line in the last 2,000 years. Over the last 2,000 years, there has not been an NFL line this enormous. That's my first joke. My second joke is I think it's line manipulation in the first move, and that is going to close at 30. My third joke is that I think the Sharps are going to pound Jacksonville. It's going to close at 10.5. You got any jokes for this line?
Well, as you asked me, although I guess it's kind of an inside joke, did you write all those yourself?
I did. Oh, Joe. Oh. Joe. I write all my own jokes myself. Absolutely.
All right, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
No, the interesting thing is, as far as the Sharps, this is where I think the Sharps and the Squares will disagree, but whether or not the Squares will go all that nuts, I've said time and time again, obviously the Squares love betting on good teams regardless of what the point spread is, and they love betting against bad teams regardless of what the point spread is. But this line may be the exception to every single rule. Whether or not the public is going to stay away from this game, I can tell you for one thing, the Squares are not going to be betting Jacksonville, but they're either going to stay away or they're going to bet on the big favorite. But as far as the Sharps, hey, odds, favorites, I should say underdogs of 17 or more going back to 1994, 20-8 against the spread, and getting 20 or more, 8-2 against the spread. And this game is one of those where people will say, Squares will say, if I'm going to lose, I'd rather lose betting on Denver than Jacksonville. Well, too often it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time in my recent memory that we've got a line that might be, what I call it the Georgia State-Alabama line. It might be a line where actually motivation becomes a huge factor, in an actual NFL game. I mean, if Denver goes up by 17, by 20, we know that Peyton Manning loves to put up 50 points every game. But are they really going to try to, cover this spread, or are they going to just kind of like run it out?
Yeah, I don't care what John Fox says, what Peyton Manning says. It's human nature. Both Denver and obviously Peyton Manning, they are chasing some all-time numbers this year. And I think considering that they are chasing season-long numbers, it's going to be tough to take the foot off of the gas pedal. So regardless of what they say, that's got to be in the back of their mind. No, I don't think they will take the foot off of the gas pedal as early as big underdog backers would like.
Oh, so when you say season long, you're talking about statistical numbers. See, I'm thinking about that they're looking for an undefeated season. And so, if they get a win in the bag, at this point in the year, are they really going to go all out while, Jacksonville, like, a MAC team playing Alabama, will go all out just to not lose by 25 or something?
Yeah, I don't completely agree with that analogy. I do know where you're coming from, but no, I still think in the back of their mind, for Peyton Manning to throw, we use some hyperbole already about the biggest line in 2,000 years for Peyton Manning to throw for 100,000 yards this year. This is a perfect chance to really pile on the numbers. So no, I think it'll be probably about 10 minutes left to go in the game before Denver really starts to consider taking the foot off of the gas pedal.
All right, well, if the public isn't interested in taking the Denver line, there's a bunch of other really big lines that they might be interested in. San Francisco, -11 over Arizona, a decent team. Not sure that line is warranted. Seattle, -13.5 over Tennessee. And then Cincinnati as a road favorite of 9 or 7.5 or 9 over Buffalo. Do you have anything to say about any of those lines? Do you think the public will pile on all of them?
Yeah, I would be very surprised if Tennessee closes as anything less than a 14-point underdog. The public certainly loves Seattle. They're among the most dominant teams in the NFL this year. Obviously not quite as dominant as the Denver Broncos. But, Yeah, I think that this line will be bet up to at least 14. Now, that's a key number. It's not, as high of as strong as a key number as 3 or 7 or even 10, but almost definitely the public will bet this up to at least 14 on Seattle. As far as San Francisco, yeah, that's quite interesting because Arizona is a strong defensive team. Their offense isn't very good, but they're not pathetic where they're giving away tons of points. And if you'll notice, ever since that Colin Kaepernick went in that mini slump, if anything, Jim Harbaugh, he's been a little more conservative on offense and going with Gore. So that is a big number there. There's a good chance that I might take the underdog. Well, the public, I still think the public likes betting mismatches. They like betting the favorite. So I would guess, if anything, the public will bet the 49ers, but I don't know if that's going to be a smart move.
All right, and what sides do you think might wind up being sharp sides? I could see St. Louis getting a full touchdown at Houston. I could see the Sharps betting St. Louis and that line closing, closer to 5.5. But Houston's kind of one of these teams you really maybe want to stay off at this point in the year because it's just not clear what's going to happen with Schaub at quarterback. Maybe Buffalo. I mean, whenever you see a big home dog like that of over a touchdown against a team that's not dominant like Cincinnati, you got to think that the Sharps are going to, just like they did with Oakland last week. That was definitely a sharp side, obviously the right side. We don't know who Buffalo's quarterback is going to be, although I think they did announce that Thaddeus guy. But maybe that's going to be a sharp side. And maybe Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland coming off a bye, playing better. Whedon getting a little bit of confidence and, small public road favorite with Detroit maybe.
Yeah, this is a game where I think a sharp play will probably be on the Jets, or maybe more accurately going against Pittsburgh, because the public still tends to like to bet teams on perception, but Pittsburgh has been awful. We told you before the year started, Pittsburgh was going to be an overrated team. So I think the Sharps will bet against Pittsburgh, so thus bet on the New York Jets this week. Based on some software I use, I know there's some commercial software out there that says that they can predict line moves. I have some metrics of my own. I think the squares will probably bet Minnesota up a little bit, and will also bet the over there. But I think there will be some sharp money on Dallas this week because a lot of the sharps I know basically agree with my theory that Tony Romo bet against him off of a win, bet with him off of a loss, and he played pretty well in a loss. And they're going to think Washington finally got the win under their belt. The rest came at the wrong time. I actually think Dallas will be a sharp move this week.
That's interesting. And because Washington's off a bye, the public does still like to bet RG3. That could actually be one of those games. I could see it coming a mile away where there might actually be a sharp public split with the Sharps on Dallas and the public betting against Dallas. We'll see if that turns out to be the case when I talk to Brent from BetDSI this week. But of the games I mentioned, you don't think that maybe Buffalo might be a sharp side?
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo, we've actually been riding them because of E.J. Manuel, but he's out for several weeks. I think that the Sharps are going to probably stay away from that game. That is a big, big injury because Buffalo started to show some life because of E.J. Manuel, and he had that terrible injury. Now, I think that the Sharps will probably stay away from that game.
All right, so if you had to pick one line out of the whole card that you think will move the most out of all of them, what would it be, Joe Duffy?
I would think because of the sharp money, I think the Sharps are probably going to bet the New Orleans, New England under the total because these are two teams that have reputations of being high-scoring teams, and thus, maybe the gut reaction is to bet the over. That's why the total is going to be too high. But New Orleans is actually going under 4-1 by an 8.7 margin. Their games are going under by an average of 8.7. New England's games have gone under by an average of 13.5. So I think there will be some big money on the New Orleans, New England game to go under the total.
Great point, Joe Duffy. That could be the case. Right now it's 49.5. We will see where that total closes. All right, that just about does it for this week, Joe Duffy, and we will talk to you again next Monday.